My daughter, she heard the shooting and she came into my bedroom and said, "Dad, doesn't that sound like gunfire?" Stepped out of my bedroom and I could tell it was gunfire at that point. I had no shoes on. People say, "I can't believe you didn't put shoes on." And I say, "You're lucky I had pants on." When seconds count, police are minutes away. Police are second responders. You are your own first responders. Police generally show up in time to mop up blood, take evidence, but never be there immediately. I called my wife and I said, "I'm okay physically." She said, "I know, I can see you walking around down there." She said, "But how are you?" I said, "Well, I think I had to kill someone." And she said, "Well, how are you?" And I said, "I'm okay." And she said, "I'm proud of you." And I don't believe in coincidences at all. God called me for a moment.
All right, welcome back to the Rice Report, everybody. My name is Eric Rice. I'm your host here, of course, the place where we talk about the three things you're never supposed to: money, politics, and religion. Today, we're going to take a very different course that kind of blends in with all of the above. We're joined today by Stephen Willeford, who is the national spokesperson for Gun Owners of America. If you don't know the difference between gun owners in America and the National Rifle Association, or the NRA, we're going to talk about that today. But Stephen, I'd love for you to start with what happened on November 5th, 2017. This event on its own is a very good description of why gun ownership, proper legal gun ownership in America, is a very important thing in this country. And then we'll get into GOA and a little bit about what they're doing in their advocacy of Second Amendment, as well as what the administration is doing right now, which many of us as gun owners consider to be a bit of a letdown, and how we can change course. So, Stephen, welcome. Thank you for being here at the Rice Report. I appreciate it.
Man, I am so happy to be here. It's my privilege to do this. I love these organizations, these podcasts that out there preaching the good news and fighting for rights.
Well, we have to. There's been this. I'm 48 years old, and my entire life I've heard nothing but gun rights and gun laws. And then I learned how to read when I was a kid, and I saw the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Yet it's infringed upon every day, whether it's through licensing or background checks or red flag laws, which are an absolute communist disaster waiting to happen. But no one seems to, and we only hear the opposite side of the story. These big shootings that happen, and mass shootings, and all the gun. Guns don't kill people. Crazy people use guns to kill people. And if they don't have guns, the UK is testimony to this, that they will use knives. So until people start banning knives in the UK, we shouldn't be considering banning guns here in America, because Stephen is a well-known hero in the space for saving a town from a mass shooter in Texas, right here in Texas, on November 5th, 2017. And I know you tell this story quite a bit, but I'm not going to do it justice by giving the cliff notes. If you can walk us through what happened there. You've done it on so many other interviews, and it's just incredible to hear it from the horse's mouth. Not calling you a horse, though, Stephen. You're a fine man. Not calling you a horse.
It was a horror story, but God's grace led me through it, and His goodness, and I'm glad God called me for a moment. November 5th, 2017. I had stayed home from church. Normally, I would have been going to a church about 40 miles up the road, but I don't believe in coincidences at all.
No.
And I was going to be starting a on call at the hospital. I worked at a major metropolitan hospital in San Antonio, University Hospital, and I was going to have to carry a pager. I was a plumber. I was in plumbing maintenance.
For the kids that are too young, a pager is this little thing we used to hold on our belt, and people would call the pager, it would buzz, and then we would find a payphone, and we would call those people back. Just for those who
Yeah,
don't know.
millennials have no clue what that pager is, but
No,
it will reach us before in places where a cell phone won't.
that's right.
And when that pager goes off, I had 10 minutes to call to the hospital. And the clock started right away. So I had 10 minutes to call in, and I had an hour to get to the hospital. And so I had to throw on clothes and get out the door. So I knew I was going to be working anywhere from 20 to 30 extra hours of work that week. Otherwise, I would have been at a church 40 miles up the road, essentially. And so I stayed home from work that day, or from church that day. And my daughter heard what was going on. She heard the shooting and she came into my bedroom and said, where I was relaxing. And she said, Dad, doesn't that sound like gunfire? And I said, it does. Well, at first I said, I think it sounds like someone tapping at the window. And I went over and I opened the curtains and I couldn't see anything. She said, come in the other room. It's louder there. And when I did, I stepped out of my bedroom and I could tell it was gunfire at that point. I had no shoes on. People say, I can't believe you didn't put shoes on. And I say, you're lucky I had pants on. They call me the Barefoot Defender. The pantsless Defender would be a little creepy.
A whole different ring to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was creepy, and I just don't want to go there.
The bareback savior. Yeah.
Yeah, I ran to my safe. I opened up the safe. I grabbed an AR-15, and if you know you're going to be in a shooting, and you have a choice of a pistol or a rifle, always choose a rifle. I grabbed an AR-15. I grabbed an empty magazine and a handful of ammunition, and just a handful. And I started poking them in as I uh, called my wife. And my wife had gone to help my younger daughter and her husband. We were building their house by ourselves. We were doing all the work for it, and we were building the house. And my wife's the most amazing lady that you will ever meet, because if she wants to know how to do something, she reads a book on how to do it and she just does it.
Hmm.
So that morning she was up taping and floating walls. You know, she graduated with a 4.0 GPA from Harding Christian University. And I have not found anything that she can't do.
Love that.
And so she was taping and floating walls that morning, trying to get my younger daughter and her husband into the house we were building them, because she was pregnant with my very first grandbaby. And so I called her up and to let her know what was going on, because I didn't want her coming home. And I said, where are you at? She said, I'm at Rachel's house. I said, stay there. And she said, what's going on? And I said, someone's shooting up the church. And she said, don't go over there. And I hung up the phone and dropped the phone, and I was putting rounds in a magazine as I ran to the door. And I clicked the magazine up and chambered one as my daughter ran in the door. The older daughter ran in the door, and she said, Dad, there's a guy in black tactical gear shooting the church.
Hmm.
I said, did you call 911? She said, I did. They're aware of it. And right away, I feared the police more than I did the shooter himself.
Sure.
Because at that moment, I knew they were coming to a mass shooting. And I was running across the street with an AR-15.
And
And
no
if
shoes on.
me, what were they going to think?
Imagine if you had no pants on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it looked crazy enough with no shoes anyway.
Right.
You know, but I actually feared, and I decided in my head, excuse me, I decided in my head, the first police cruiser I saw, I was going to toss the rifle. And I was going to hit the ground yelling, he's still in there.
Yep.
And hopefully they would hear the shots and understand that I wasn't the threat.
But you're in Sutherland Springs, Texas. This is a very tiny, small town. Do you even have your own police department there, or is it an aggregate force?
No, we are not a town. We are not incorporated as a town. We have no mayor, no police department, no nothing. And we're in a very small county.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, and I don't blame the police department. The who's supposed to oversee, because we're just out in the county, is the sheriff's department. And of course, Lavernia PD, which is the closest town to us, Lavernia Police Department was coming. And we know for a fact from the first 911 call that happened at the Valero across the street from the church, the little gas station, the lady at the Valero call 911, and you can see her on the phone on their camera. And from when she called the police department, it took them 19 minutes before she heard
Wow.
the sirens and hung up the phone.
Wow.
So 19 minutes from the first 911 call until the police got there. And I don't blame the police department. They were coming as fast as they could, but
Sure.
when seconds count, police are minutes away. Um, Police are second responders. You are your own first responders. Nobody's coming to save you. Police generally show up in time to mop up blood, take evidence, and maybe arrest someone.
Hmm.
But never be there immediately when things happen. And that's just the way it is.
Hmm.
And I don't blame police for that. Never disrespect someone that is rushing into a situation to try to save your life and put their own life at stake. And chances are they don't even know your name.
Yep.
So never disrespect that. However, it is what it is. And as I ran across the street, I got halfways across the street and I yelled out. And I can't justify yelling out. Why would I do a thing like that? That's given away my element of surprise. And I truly believe that God called out a demon that was within him at the time. I'm sorry, my phone is going crazy.
You're okay.
I forgot to silence it. But um, I truly believe that the Holy Spirit called out a demon inside the church. He had just shot Julie Workman through the breast. And then she was hiding under a pew. And then he skipped one off the concrete into her leg. And then he turned his gun to the pew in front, where he shot through the pew into Chris Workman's back, instantly paralyzing Chris from the waist down. And then he pulled his pistol out and he was going to shoot Chris in the face. Chris said, I saw the gun, I saw the muzzle, I seen what he had done to everyone else. And he said, I knew I was going to meet Jesus. And he said, then I heard you yell. He said, his expression changed. And he dropped his rifle inside the church and came out of the church shooting at me with a pistol. I ran behind a Dodge pickup truck. That's not cowardice, it's just good sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He had on class 3 body armor and a ballistic bulletproof helmet. And I was barefoot. People say, really barefoot? And I said, you're lucky I had pants on. And if you see this much fat running, something serious is going down. Um, I don't run for fun. Um, and I came up over the hood. He hit the truck in front of me, shattered the windshield of the car behind me. He hit the house behind me. He had on class 3A body armor and a ballistic bulletproof helmet. I hit him in the left chest. I hit him in the abdomen. Both of those stopped by the body armor. And I know I hit him there because there were contusions on his chest and the abdomen where he was hit. He ran for his vehicle, which was sitting in the middle of the street with the driver's side door open and the engine running. And when he turned to his side, I was able to hit him high in the left side between the plates.
Yep.
I was able to hit him high in his legs. And he got in the vehicle, he slammed the door, and he put 2 shots through the side window at me. And I saw the glass open up in slow motion, glass falling from those 2 shots. And I really couldn't see his head because the reflection of the sun in the window. But I put a shot where I perceived his head to be, and the glass shattered. The police say that shot busted underneath the rim of his helmet all the way across his forehead. He accelerated, he turned the corner, he wanted out, and he started fleeing as fast as he could. By the time I got in the middle of the street, he was 150 yards away and fleeing. I put a shot through the back windshield that shattered the back windshield. You know, when that AR-15 hit the glass, it just exploded the glass.
Yep.
And the police say that that shot went through the driver's side seat and hit him right at the left shoulder blade. And he topped the hill and out of sight. And I'm standing in the middle of the street saying, it can't end this way. And I looked off to the left, and there was another Dodge pickup at the stop sign. And I ran over and I tapped on the window, a man that I'd never met before in my life. His name's Johnny Langendorf. He was on the phone uh, with dispatch at the time. He had witnessed the shooting and called in, and they put him to dispatch because he had eyes on the shooter. I tapped on the window and said, that guy stopped. That guy just shot up the Baptist church and we have to stop him. And the next thing I heard were the locks open up. I climbed up in the cab of a tall Texan. Um, he has a longhorn skull tattooed in the middle of his neck, and the horns go up underneath his ears.
You can't make it up.
I can't make that up. You know, he's a cartoon of Texas. Had on a white Western hat with a feather sticking out of it, toothpick hanging out of his mouth. And he never said a word to me. And I climbed up in the seat, and he accelerated and took off after the shooter. And we were splitting cars and running down the road and chasing. And at first, we didn't even see him. And I dropped the magazine out of the rifle, and I looked. I had one round in the top of the magazine, one in the chamber. I had 2 rounds left. I looked at him. I said, "Tell them hurry, hurry. I have 2 rounds left." And he still got on Class 3 body armor. And we were running through doing, I'd say, over 100 miles per hour. He said over 95. And we were splitting cars and stuff and chasing the wind. And we came over the top of a hill and around a curve. And I said, that's him, that's him. And I looked at Johnny. I said, you know, if you catch him, you're going to have to put him off the road. And Johnny said, yep, I already figured that. And yeah, just matter of fact. And
Were that the first words that he said to you by then?
yes, yeah. And I'm thinking Johnny's thinking, I always wanted to try a pit maneuver.
Yep.
So as we came up, the guy realized he was being chased. He pulled out into the ditch on the side of the road with a curb sign right in front of him in the ditch. And I thought, oh, this is getting intense now, because he didn't even leave himself a way out.
He's digging in. Yeah.
And so Johnny pulled up with his front bumper, even with the guy's rear bumper, still on the pavement, and he's out in the ditch. And I put the passenger side window down, stuck the rifle out the window, opened the door with my left hand, started pushing the door out. I was going to use the door as a shield and re-engage him through the window. But before my foot hit the ground, he accelerated. He took that sign out, and the sign flipped over the vehicle and onto the ground behind it. I didn't know the signs did that, but I guess they're made to break away like that. And he went right back up on the road and started running again. I barely got my foot in before Johnny was after him once again. This time he ran about 3/4 of a mile up the road and about 3/4 of the way around a curve that the sign had indicated. And he swerved off to the left-hand side this time and out into a field about 50 yards and stopped. And I told Johnny, I said, just get down below the dash, stay out of gunfire. And I got out and put my rifle over the hood of a truck again for the second time with my EOTech pointed at that side window. He was parked looking away from me, and I really couldn't see in the vehicle. to see what was going on. And I started yelling, get out of the car, get out of the car, and using some rude obscenities that I probably shouldn't have used.
Heat of the moment.
But and I told Johnny stay down below the dash, and of course Johnny got out doing what most millennials would do. He was live streaming it to Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
And I sat down there for a good 7 more minutes. Police say they were 7 minutes behind me. And I sat there for 7 more minutes wondering where the police were. And I even shouted at one time, "Where are the police?" And then I heard off to the left-hand side, I heard a microphone or a PA system come on and said, "Driver, get out of the vehicle with your hands up." And I turned and looked up to the left, and I could see an officer standing behind his door with a microphone in his left hand and a pistol in his right. And he keyed the mic again. He said, "Driver, get out of the vehicle with your hands up." And I want to say that when the police show up, if you're ever involved in something like that, that officer wants to go home.
Yes.
You need to make sure you're complying in every way. So I laid the rifle on the hood of the truck. And I started walking back to the back of the truck with my hands up and my fingers wide. And I started walking to the back of the truck, and the officer keyed his mic again. He looked at me and he made eye contact. And I'm sorry.
Oh,
He
you
made
okay?
eye contact with me and he said, "Not you." It's like, so I ran back over and I went back to the hood of the truck and I picked up my rifle and I held it at gunpoint again. And this time, another 10 minutes rolled by and they put up roadblocks on each side of the road. So nobody was coming down the road anymore. And I had just crossed the county line. So off to my right was Guadalupe County Sheriff's Department, and they put up that roadblock up there. Off to my left was Wilson County that I'd come from, and they'd put up a roadblock down there. And I stayed, and they were both 50, 60 yards from me. And I'm the only one down there
You're right in the center of it all.
close, and I'm island to myself. And some of your listeners may not understand, but November 5th, 2017, in Sutherland Springs, Texas, it was 90 degrees.
Mm.
And I didn't have shoes. And so now I'm trying to hang on to the back of Johnny's truck and get my feet into the shade. I'd put my rifle on the back of his toolbox because the police department started pulling out rifles, and I'm done. I don't want any part of this anymore. I'm done. And so now I'm trying to keep my feet in the shade because they're starting to get hot.
Oh yeah.
Adrenaline's gone. And so finally I decide after about 30 to 45 minutes, I'm going to run back to the police line. And I started to, and they started yelling, "No, no, no, let us bring up a police cruiser so you can use it for cover to
Mhm.
get to us." And so they did, and they took and they set me on a guardrail. And then I looked up 200 yards back where the fire department had set up a roadblock, and I could see my wife's car there, and I knew my wife was there.
Mm.
And since I had hung up on her, I had not gotten a chance to talk to her at all, and she has been stopped by the roadblock, and all I wanted, every fiber of my being, I wanted to speak with my wife more than anybody else in this world. She's my rock. I've been married 37 years.
Good for you. It's amazing.
She is my life. And I can see the car there. And an officer started to walk by. I said, "Excuse me, can I call my wife?" He said, "Yeah, go ahead." I kept walking. I said, no, no, can I use your phone? He looked at me, he said, you don't have a phone? I looked down, I said, I have no shoes on. I didn't need a phone. He said, sure. And he handed me his phone, and I called my wife, and I needed something from her. And I called her and I said, I'm okay physically. I said, I'm all right. She said, I know, I can see you walking around down there. She said, but how are you? I said, well, I think I had to kill someone.
Yeah.
And she said, well, how are you? And I said, I'm okay. And she said, I'm proud of you. And that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, that's a hard situation.
I really didn't care what else anyone else in this world thought of me at that moment. But I needed something from my wife. I needed to know that she was proud of me, that she was okay with what I had done. And then I said, have you got shoes? I said, I'm barefoot and my feet are hot. And she said, you can have my Crocs, but they won't let me down there. And I know my feet are going to stick over the edge of her Crocs like that, but anything, I'll take anything at
Yeah,
this point.
a hot Texas day, you'll take anything to not be barefoot. That's for
So I
sure.
looked at the officer and I said, can I go get my wife's Crocs? He said, no, you need to stay here. I said, my feet are hot. And he opened up the back doors of his police cruiser. He said, you can sit in the back of my car. And I'm like, no, I'm cool. I did not want to sit in the back seat because when they shut the doors to a police cruiser, they don't open from the inside.
That's right.
And that's the last thing I wanted to do. I figured I thought I was going to jail.
And at this point, had there been any response from the gunman?
No, still nothing.
Nothing.
Still nothing. And I didn't know why they weren't approaching the vehicle. I found out later why they were, and I was okay with it. Apparently, one of the police officers 2 weeks prior, for his birthday, had gotten a drone,
Ah,
and so they sent him to his house to get his drone to fly over and look into the windows of the vehicle to see what it was. And I'm good with that. Fly a drone over there, look at, record what's going on, see
safety
what it looks
first.
like, instead of sending an officer potentially in harm's way, send a drone over there. And that's what they were waiting for, is him to return with his drone. And but I didn't know that at the time. And I was thinking, are they just waiting for him to bleed to death? And I was okay with that too,
Sure.
but no, they were waiting for the drone to come. And they finally got the drone and they flew it over there. And the police said that he had turned the pistol to his head and up underneath a helmet and pulled the trigger and killed himself. I'm good with that. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care. I didn't need to be the one that killed him. Any hunter will tell you when you hit something here, he's coughing up his own lungs.
Yeah, he's done.
But I don't care. If he chose to take his own life, I'm good with that.
And now going back to the church, how many lives were saved at the church? Because this is an old 100-year-old church, flimsy walls, wood based, I'm assuming,
Yes.
and firing from outside. Those rounds are going through both walls. I mean, it's going completely through the
Through
church.
the
Well,
walls and the windows. And
yeah,
he murdered 26 people
unbelievable,
and he wounded 20 more.
unbelievable.
There were only 3 people in that church that walked out without a bullet. And he was walking around and finishing off everybody that he had wounded.
And if you hadn't showed up, it would have been 45 plus casualties because that was his intent.
that was his intent, is to murder everybody.
Unbelievable.
And I just, I don't know. People,
Question, I don't know if you get asked enough, is has the town recovered? I know it's been almost 9 years, but it's something you really don't recover from.
yeah, how can you recover?
Yeah.
Uh, and we're doing as good as we can. Um, and the church is rebuilding. They got a brand new church. They actually tore down the old church, and built a brand new church. And it's Sutherland Springs. We're
Mhm.
here for each other. We're under total population is under 600 people. If you can imagine, Mayberry, USA.
Yeah.
We know everybody. The people that died that day, I knew them.
I'm so sorry.
I'm growing my beard. I grow my beard. Started in August to grow it out because I put on a Santa hat and Santa uniform, and I deliver toys throughout Wilson County every year, this time of year, to underprivileged children. And I did that 8 years with that church before this happened. I didn't attend that church. However, my kids went to Awanas at that church because their friends in Sutherland Springs went to Awanas, so they would walk over from my house to the church and attend Awanas at that church.
Mhm.
Delivered toys at Christmas time. My great grandfather bought the property that I live on now in 1927. I'm fourth generation on the same property.
Wow.
And my great grandfather used to play Santa Claus when I was growing up and took me with him to deliver toys and candy and stuff to underprivileged families. So I'm just following in his steps.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing that he did. It's my community. For that church, when I was 5 and 6 years old, he would go to that church and he would pick me up as a little boy and hold me up, and I'd grab the bell rope and he'd pull me up and down with the bell to ring the
Mm.
bell to bring people to church.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you for sharing that, Stephen, because this is a true story. This isn't make believe. This isn't Hollywood. This really happened in this small town. It was in the news for a blip, like literally just a blip, because it's just small town Texas to the news. And then for years, debates occurred. Right, this is where the big gun advocacy in the first Trump administration kind of began. Had you not been a lawful, legal, responsible gun owner who's well trained, by the way, like we talked off camera, you were very well trained. Your arsenal is incredible. And some of the guns you showed me, especially the one with scripture on it from the Rangers, just amazing. Had you not been well trained, responsible, and lawful gun owner, everyone in that church would have lost their life that day. That's the cold hard facts. You could, I know you're a reluctant hero, but you're a hero absolutely to those people who walked away from there with injury or even untouched. But then all of a sudden, you were I think you were working as like a mechanical plumber for a hospital system before that. And now you're national spokesperson for Gun Owners of America. So this is a debate that rages on in America. I'm a very big Second Amendment advocate. Always have been, always will be. That's what separates us from the rest of the wilderness out there that is under unleashed tyranny, especially in Europe. If they had guns, they wouldn't be in the position they're in. That's for certain.
I have a story to kind of emphasize this because I think America is exceptional. They say we never were exceptional. I
Mm,
will say we are.
absolutely.
We were, we are, and we will be exceptional. And this is a perfect example. So, in France, where guns are illegal no matter what, you can't own a gun. I want people to think about a French train with a guy with an AK 47 that was supposed to be illegal started murdering people on a French train. What do you know about it? Remember when that happened?
The terrorist attack, yeah, very very little. I
It,
remember very little, but I
okay,
remember the
so it
event.
was a terrorist attack on a French train.
Yeah,
It was two unarmed American soldiers
that's right.
that took a terrorist out
An armed terrorist.
on a French train. Now, why was it two American soldiers that took him out? They were unarmed and they took him out instead of a French person taking him out. We are exceptional.
Absolutely.
We have an attitude that matters. America has an attitude that matters. You would have thought that in France, a Frenchman would have done it, and instead they were dying. And it was two unarmed American soldiers. God bless America.
Amen.
That's the difference between us and the rest of the world.
Completely agree with that. And now you're in the center of the gun world and gun rights world. So totally different paradigm shift from where you were in 2017. Now you hit the road all the time. You're a public speaker. You're out there advocating for gun ownership through GOA. Very different organization than NRA. To give you kind of the Cliff Notes version without putting you in a bad position, NRA is very much a political organization. Gun Owners of America is unrelenting in the advocacy for uninfringed gun ownership in America. That is, they don't bend. They're not trying to negotiate with politicians. They are trying to uphold the Second Amendment of this country, which is one of the things that makes us great.
I tell people all the time that, some organizations, and I don't mention the names because I can't, but some organizations out there take your donations and buy themselves $10,000 suits. GOA takes the donations and files $10,000 suits. Some organizations take politicians to dinner. We take politicians to court.
Yep.
We're the ones that are fighting, and our slogan is no compromise. Harry Reid said that we are worse than bad. And when Harry Reid said that we were worse than bad, we put it on a banner saying Harry Reid said we're worse than bad. And Rand Paul said we are the only no compromise gun advocacy group out there. And we put that on a banner also.
Two
But
great compliments.
that's our attitude. If the left wants to call us worse than bad, we'll take that. Because that means we're in the fight so much that they hate us. And if you're not being hated in this world, you're not doing anything.
That's right. It says it directly in the Bible. If the world loves you, God does not. That is absolutely clear. So, Stephen, so you have this mission now, and you're speaking at different places, doing training at different places. You're a very skilled marksman with all kinds of trophies, incredible amount of firearms behind you. That's just a sliver of what you've got. But let's speak to the average American here today, right? Go ahead, pan around. I mean, some of this collection is just unbelievable. And that's just one room. That's one room.
And then I have the safes with guns in the safes. And so
Yeah, not a place you want to break into, guys. You're not walking out of there.
And that's metal on my walls too, by the way.
Yeah. But let's talk about gun owner advocacy from your perspective, right? So there's the staunch perspective of GOA, which gun owners love and appreciate. And if you're not, and you're not contributing to the organization, you should be, because they're defending rights. But let's talk to the middle of the road person.
Please go to gunowners.org, sign up. It's only $25 for an annual membership. If you go to Commie Coffee, you could go to Commie Coffee and buy 2 cups of coffee. And now you've spent more than a membership to Gun Owners of America, and you fought yourself.
That's right. Very good point. But this battle rages on. So America, like when I talk to people from foreign countries, they're always like, you guys have guns. Like, you're going to be fine. Don't worry about the mounting tyranny in the world. However, that's not a guarantee here. This is an ongoing legal battle. Pam Bondi is in a situation right now as Attorney General of the United States. Trump put together a very good plan for gun advocacy, really good plan. Her objective is to follow it, but not more than maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was December 9th, she put out a statement saying that, everything's fine. I was summarizing this horribly, but everything's fine there, but we're really looking at getting rid of concealable weapons, which is a handgun. There's no other, you can't conceal a rifle. I mean, you can if you're creative, but you can't conceal anything but a handgun. So this battle hasn't ended. I mean, this is one thing where, your guy wins an election. You think, oh, everything that they're platform stands for, it's just going to all be executed. That's not reality, guys. That's not how politics works. And gun ownership is under attack just like it was 1 year ago, maybe even worse, because it's coming from Pam Bondi, who has the shakiest gun owner record in Florida's history, who's now in charge of the country. What's really happening in that scenario?
Well, so we keep being told by Pam Bondi that they are the most gun-friendly Department of Justice in history. And yet we are trying to remove the suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns off the NFA. And in 1935, the Supreme Court said that they passed the NFA in 1934, and it was fought to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said it cannot be a regulation, that it can be a tax, not a regulation. Regulation would be infringing on the Second Amendment. I would say that even a tax
Absolutely.
On a God-given right, part of our God-given rights, which is the Bill of Rights, and it's considered the Bill of Rights. People don't understand that's not rights granted to you by the government. That's rights that are recognized as God-given rights, and that the government doesn't have the right to infringe upon.
Correct.
So I would say even a tax, like a poll tax used to be, and then it was found unconstitutional. You can't put a tax on a God-given right.
They're going to try, though.
But in 1934, they put a tax with the NFA tax on American people. And the Supreme Court in 1935 said it could be a tax, but it could not be a regulation. And with the big, beautiful bill last year, or I guess this year, earlier this year, the big, beautiful bill was passed and signed by the president, which took away the $200 tax from the NFA on short-barreled rifles, shotguns, and suppressors. And we are of the since it is no longer a tax, then it's a regulation. And so we have filed our big, beautiful lawsuit, is what it's called.
Love that.
To get the suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns completely off the NFA, because it's no longer a tax. And Pam Bondi says, well, you're not paying the tax, but it's still a tax.
Yeah, completely still a tax.
Completely still a tax, even though there's no tax. And
which makes it a regulation at that juncture.
Which makes it a regulation. And in the Senate, the parliamentarian said it wasn't a tax to begin with. And it's called a tax stamp. They're talking out of both sides of the mouth.
Yep.
If you want a little bit of history, and I don't know how much you know about this.
I love history, please.
You know why the NFA was originally enacted?
I don't.
So Al Capone, they were trying to catch Al Capone. And the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened, where Al Capone lined up all of the gang members against a wall and shot them with Tommy guns, full automatic Tommy guns. And at the time, I have a Tommy gun right back.
You've got one right behind you. Yeah.
That's a 10.5-inch barrel. So it was a short-barreled rifle. And that one's not full automatic, but the Tommy gun was full automatic. They enacted a tax on every short-barreled rifle, every machine gun, every short-barreled shotgun, and every suppressor. They enacted a tax. And they said, and Al Capone, the tax was a $200 tax, and at the time, that's about $4,700.
Yeah, astronomical. Yeah, astronomically expensive.
So for every short-barreled rifle, shotgun, and everything else, it's $4,700. And what do you know about how they caught Al Capone?
Tax evasion.
You know what tax he evaded?
NFA.
NFA.
Wow.
They saddled the whole nation with an unconstitutional act to get one man off the streets.
Wow.
And if you really look at it, and I'm not trying to justify Al Capone in any means,
Sure.
he was an evil man. But if you really look at how he got where he was, the government created him. You know how the government created him? With
NFA tax.
prohibition.
Prohibition's an entirely interesting story in history because
Homemade prohibition made alcoholic beverages illegal, and that's what created Al Capone's crime spree and whatever was prohibition, selling illegal alcohol, which shouldn't have ever been illegal.
right.
And our government even poisoned alcohol and sent it out there to poison people that were drinking alcohol. So our government at the time wasn't nice and clean either.
Right.
And they saddled the entire nation with an unconstitutional act just to get one man off the street. And when they arrested him,
Man.
he had syphilis, and they knew it. They didn't give him any treatment until it was too late, and he was going to die of it. And then they released him.
Yeah. 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 Prohibition, on the other hand, that's actually Henry Ford was making cars that ran on ethyl alcohol at the time. So there's that prohibition story. I've heard that for Al Capone and the moonshiners back then. They were trying to catch all the gangsters that were running booze. But at the same time, Henry Ford was building cars that ran on alcohol and not gasoline. So when they shut down alcohol, not only did it open the doors for the gangsters, it also opened the doors for Ford to contort to Rockefeller's demands of creating gasoline-driven vehicles. So very interesting time in history. All very provable, by the way. You can see the machination changes in the vehicles. Very interesting. I did not know about the NFA tax. I did not know about that. That's fascinating.
Everybody, I can ask anybody, what do you know how they caught Al Capone? Everybody, tax evasion.
But what tax? Yeah.
Let the wheels turn for a minute. Oh, yeah.
That's fascinating. I remember as a kid, we went to Alcatraz for a trip, or to San Francisco. Went to Alcatraz and saw Al Capone. You know, I'm from Chicago originally, so Al Capone was always kind of folklore to us, or legend in that growing up. But seeing that place, and they let the guy go, and he basically just died. But these battles go on. So you have the NFA battle happening right now. What do you know about this article that Pam Bondi published, where she was talking about the possibility of banning or restricting concealable weapons? Which the only concealable weapon I can think of is a handgun. This caused a fury on Twitter for sure.
They're probably trying to take short barreled rifles and shotguns.
Yeah, I guess you can conceal those too with a coat.
Which they're not they're not that concealable. And seriously, look at that Tommy gun on the wall, because it's
Yeah.
got 2.5-inch barrel. Not very concealable. Not concealable at all. AR-15 pistols, even with shorter barrels, and you can see one up on the wall.
Yep.
Back over. Let's see.
Right there.
Right
Right
there.
there. Yep.
That's a honey badger. And that's
Ton of
not,
fun on the range. Ton of
huh?
fun. Ton of fun on the range. Get a honey badger. Shoot a honey badger. They're a ton of fun.
I love my honey badger. I have a suppressor for it. Very quiet, very accurate, very cool rifle. Not real concealable.
No.
Not real concealable. If I carry a concealed gun, it's going to be the one I got on my side, even as we're speaking.
Yep.
I've got a Springfield Armory Hellcat.
I've got a funny story. So when I first moved to Texas, this is actually the second time I've lived in Texas. When I moved here, I went to the grocery store right by my house, and the grocery store started to empty. Squad cars showed up. Guys, the cops are coming out with AR-15. So my son and I are sitting in the parking lot, kind of like, what's happening? I always have a pistol. So I'm like, we're good. Like, let's just see what's happening. Nothing really happened. Went back to the neighborhood. Everybody was talking about it in the neighborhood the next day. And I said, what actually happened last night? And they go, somebody moved here from like Oregon or something, and a guy walked into the grocery store with an open carry pistol, and so she called the police saying I'm like, this is Texas, man. There's an open carry pistol about every 6 yards if you're paying attention, or at least there's somebody you can see the handle popping out of the waistband. They're everywhere.
Go back to Oregon.
Yeah.
So what I will tell you is the constitutional carry bill that passed here in Texas, it was GOA's lawyers that wrote that bill.
Yep, that's right.
Uh, and if you guys are unfamiliar with GOA, who GOA lawyers are, go go watch the YouTube channel Armed Attorneys.
Great channel. I've seen it.
They are so Emily and Richard, I call them my beautiful people. Uh, Emily and Richard, they are superb lawyers when it comes to the Second Amendment, and they write the bills for GOA to submit. So the constitutional carry was submitted by them. The hotel carry was submitted by them. The campus carry, which in Texas, 18 to 20-year-olds all the way up, you can, if you're going to college on a state university, you can carry a gun.
Hmm.
Our lawyers wrote that bill, and that's Emily and Richard, and they are absolute in the gun world. They are rock stars.
And they should be given praise for this. So, like, this is such a it's amazing to me how polarizing the topic of gun ownership is in America. There would be no America if we didn't have guns. Like, it's just point blank, very simple logic. There would have been no Revolutionary War if we didn't have weapons. We're defending against a tyrannical government and taxation without representation, which we're kind of seeing now. And if we didn't have but now all of a sudden, because times have changed, we don't need them. And the laws that are trying to pass are banning legal gun ownership and really doing nothing against illegal gun runners, which are the ones who are creating the crimes.
Look what's happening in Canada right now.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Where they've made guns and said, oh well, it's not a mandatory buyback. However, if you get caught with your gun after October 31st, then you will be arrested. It's not a mandatory buyback though.
Right, not mandatory. You don't have to do it. You can just go to jail.
You could just go to jail.
Where you can't have a gun. Well, they'll take your gun and send you to jail.
And now Alberta's saying, you know what? We're not going to enforce that on any Albertans. And as a matter of fact, they have started the process to remove themselves from Canada.
Yep. If you haven't paid attention to the leadership of Alberta, you should. Those are actually, I don't advocate for any politician. I think they're all part of the same team. But at least what I'm hearing and seeing out of Alberta, these people are actually standing up for their own people in a nation that is completely bent to knee to global tyranny. And Canada is a whole different topic. But we got a few minutes here left, Stephen. Give us the pitch on GOA. Why your average American should be supporting this group. I support the group. But why the average American should be paying attention to what you're doing and helping you advocate.
So, people in California have said, you've got all these lawsuits. Why aren't you fighting them here in California? Well, we are. We are fighting them in California. As a matter of fact, Gun Owners of America started out Gun Owners of California. However, what we are doing right now, and this is relevant because the Supreme Court's probably going to hear our case in Illinois. They have the assault weapons ban. We call them the ban of modern firearms.
Yeah.
And so they have the assault weapons ban, and we have filed and we have been pushing that peanut up the hill. And now it looks like the Supreme Court's going to hear one of these cases. And if they hear our case, and we are certain with the Bruin decision and stuff, because it said history, tradition, and text. And if there was no banning these things in the 1700s when the Second Amendment was signed, if there was no banning them then, and there's no history of them banning them, then they cannot be banned. And that's what Bruin said. So we're thinking if it gets to the Supreme Court, it's going to be a slam dunk. And they're saying, well, but that's in Illinois. But yes, but if the Supreme Court rules on it,
precedent,
then it's precedent for the whole nation, not just Illinois. We're fighting the high capacity magazine bans or the standard capacity magazine. A Glock 17 was designed to hold 17 rounds. An AR-15 standard capacity is 30-round magazines, and some of them are belt fed, which has unlimited ammunition. They are not high capacity in any means.
No.
Uh, shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. And we are fighting those fights. We are fighting on the state level. If you sign up, please go to gunowners.org. Sign up. Annual membership is only $25. Um, if you sign up as a member, when you put in your email and you put in your address, then it goes out and it tells where you're living, and it will start sending you in emails when you need to write your congressman. It will send you suggestions who you can vote for that is pro 2A. And it will tell you when you need to go to your state capitol and fight the fight. And I had someone say, "Oh, I don't need GOA. I go down there and fight at the Texas Capitol all the time." Good for you. Good for you. Do you always know what to fight for and
And
what
how to fight. Yeah.
and there's a difference between you going to the state of Texas Capitol and fighting and the 2.5 million GOA members screaming at one time. Who do you think they're going to pay more attention to?
Totally agree.
Please be part of that solution. We are speaking as one voice. We will write a form letter, let you sign it, and send to your congressman, your state representative. We put those forms out there in email so that you can print them up, sign them yourself, and send them. And these things matter. The
Very
more
much so.
noise
Yeah.
you may have a congressman that doesn't like to hear it, but if his phone lines are shut down because of the members, and we give out those phone numbers too, and if you scream as one united voice, they cannot ignore us. And we're doing more for this fight in the state of Texas. You wouldn't believe what it went on behind closed doors. I was calling wealthy donors that we had on record supporting constitutional carry. And they were millionaires and billionaires. And I was calling them on the phone and saying, your state representative is going to vote with the chiefs of police association against constitutional carry. And then we're like, well, I want constitutional carry. And I have my representative's phone number. Well, would you please give them a call? And those representatives were seen walking the floor saying, we finally have a bill that we can vote for now. It matters.
It matters a lot. I mean, just this kind of, you're the perfect, I wanted to have this conversation on the podcast, and I think you're the perfect person to have it with. Go back. All you hear on the internet is the mass shootings. You don't hear the mass shootings that were stopped by people who are armed, trained, and responsible with a firearm. Happened in Indianapolis. A guy, it was a 102-yard shot with a 9mm. That's a well-trained person to use a handgun to hit somebody that far away, or it might have been closer.
It was 50 yards.
50 yards, still.
50 yards across a food court. And I talked to Eli's lawyer. Eli's lawyer called me and talked to me personally. And what most people don't understand is Eli rides a motorcycle. And the week before that happened, dropped his bike and broke the back sight off his Glock. And he was still able to make that shot, hit the guy 8 out of 10 shots, 50 yards, while directing the crowd away to get him out of his way, yelling, move, move. And he hit the guy 8 out of 10 shots. And his first shot that he hit him was fatal. But the only reason he kept shooting is because his arms and legs were still moving.
And that saved so many lives that day. And it was a blip in the radar, right? Like a mass shooting will get months of attention, unless it's in Las Vegas. That went away very quickly. And they use these events. They use these events to take weapons. That responsible, lawful gun ownership is an American right. The right to self-defense is a God-given right. And the ability for Americans to have these conversations openly and intelligently is just a human right. It's something we should all be talking for. So even if you're not a gun owner, You should be advocating for the gun owners who are putting in this hard work, because, like you said, in moments that take seconds where decisions need to be made, police are minutes away. Like that is the purpose of gun ownership. It's not to be offensive. It's a defensive measure in a society where there's 432 million guns in this country. You think you're ever going to get rid of those? The only ones who are going to have them if they take all the legal weapons away are going to be the criminals who know how to stow them away and wipe away the serial numbers. That's what's left. And then you're left with a potentially nationalized police force that's going to respond way too late in an emergency. You put it very articulately. They're there to clean up the blood, get some clues, and catch the bad guy, hopefully.
And then hopefully a jury doesn't let them go.
It's exactly right. That's exactly, our court system right now is woefully bad, woefully corrupt.
Right after the Parkland shooting, the families were trying to sue the police department for not responding, and a federal judge said the police have no obligation to protect you.
That's right.
Let that soak in for a minute. The police, unless you're in their custody, they have no obligation to protect you. And here's what I believe. If I kiss Junior on the forehead and put him on your big yellow bus, he's no longer in my custody. He's in your custody. You have an obligation to take care of Junior, or he's not getting on your big yellow bus. You should defend my children in a public school as if I would defend them, for every means that I would use to defend them.
Which are public knowledge. We know how far you're willing to go to protect your neighbors in a horrible, horrible situation. And God bless you for that. I think that the path you're on right now, you're the perfect guy to talk about this in America. I think you're the perfect person. You're humble, which is just, and you're a God-fearing man. You don't want violence, but like you said, you're a sheepdog, and the sheepdog doesn't want the violence, but he's prepared for it when it comes. And that describes you.
I heard a saying not long ago: if you're not capable of extreme violence, you're not peaceful, you're harmless.
Harmless. Yep.
I am capable of extreme violence. I choose to be peaceful, but don't cross that line.
That's where the word meek comes in, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And that is what people need to be, is meek, prepared for it, but choosing not to. Choosing peace at every possibility of peace should be exaggerated before the moment of a difficult decision. So, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us and going through this stuff. Thank you for the further education on Al Capone. That blew my mind. I had no idea it was the NFA. I think I have actually heard that, and the more I'm thinking about it, but I'd never put those pieces together. Thank you for the advocacy that you're promoting out there. Thank you to GOA for the great work in this country, because if we didn't have you guys, the NRA, you're not going to say their name, but they've bent a knee more times than any other gun advocacy group in the world. And GOA is absolutely dedicated and relentless to a few simple words: shall not be infringed. And it says shall not be infringed for a reason. The founding fathers knew at some point in time in history that this would be infringed upon us, because that's what tyrants do. They steal your ability to defend yourself. So thank you so much to you and to GOA for all you're doing. Love to have you back on next time we have a gun advocacy topic to bring up. You're the expert. Would love to bring you back on.
Well, just call me anytime.
Absolutely, absolutely. So and we'll put all the links below in the video when it comes out, to make sure you guys can do it. If you're a gun owner and you're not a member of GOA, $25 a year. Sign up for it. You're going to have freedom fighters fighting for your freedom to keep yourself well defended in a country that's excessively violent at this point in time.
I do have a book.
Oh, please.
A town called Sutherland Springs. You can find it on Amazon. A town called Sutherland Springs. It made it to the #1 best-selling Christian biography when it first came out. It's a town called Sutherland Springs, and it also made it to #1 new release at the time. And I'm real proud of the book. And
As you should be.
It's about more than just the shooting, and it has to be.
Well, it's certainly first on my list now. I have a whole shelf of all the people who come on the podcast who've written a book. I own For any of you guys who are watching this, I buy your, I don't ask you for free books. I would love for you to sign them. That's great. I'm not really an autograph person, but I buy all of your books. I will be buying that, adding it to the reading list, and putting it on the shelf. And Stephen, thank you so much again for coming on here. Best of luck to you and to GOA. And as always, God bless you. God bless this country. And we'll see you next time here on the Rice Report.
Thank you.